The government is today standing by its selection for the sale of the Petrotrin refinery. Finance Minister Colm Imbert announced in Parliament that Patriotic Energies and Technologies Company Limited, which is wholly owned by the Oilfields Workers Trade Union, was chosen as the preferred bidder. Finance Minister assured the decision was made in the best interest of the country.
The refinery has a profound effect on the GDP of Trinidad and Tobago. The refinery production has a profound effect on our national GDP. And therefore, our primary focus is to get it up and running as quickly as possible.
Finance Minister Colm Imbert justifies the selection of Patriotic Energies and Technologies Company Limited, wholly owned by the OWTU, as the preferred bidder for the sale of the Petrotrin refinery. Minister Imbert said the capability to restart the refinery was one of the main considerations in choosing a buyer. Of the initial 77 bids made to government, the list later narrowed down to 8, then 5, and lastly 3 companies: Patriotic Energies, Beowulf Energy, and Clash. The Finance Minister said the bid put forward by Patriotic Energies was most appealing, with a proposal made to restart operations within 12 months.
And of the 3, the entity that offered the most significant sum, as you've already heard, was Patriotic, who offered $700 million. Clash offered nothing, and Beowulf only offered $42,000 per month, which works out at $7.5 million.
Responding to those wary that the new arrangement, once completed, would face the same challenges as the previous incarnation, Minister Imbert said that's a misconception.
A lot of people have asked the question as to if the refinery was so unprofitable over the years, why should anybody believe that a new entity can make it profitable? And there's a simple answer to that. The refinery is saddled with huge debt, billions of dollars of debt. Any person taking it over now will not have to carry that debt.
When the sale of Petrotrin's refinery is finalized, the selected bidder, Patriotic Technologies Company Limited, will be subjected to the standard taxation for the energy sector in accordance with the law. As Finance Minister Colm Imbert explained during a press conference on Wednesday, government expects to earn the majority of its revenue from the company through other media.
We expect to get revenue from the economic activity that is created by the startup of the refinery, from income tax, from value-added tax, from the spin-off multiply effect in the communities around the refinery, and from the payments when they start to pay us.
And Energy Minister Franklin Can has assured the OWTU won the refinery bid fair and square. He was speaking at the opening of the NP service station on the highway in El Socorro on Wednesday.
It was an international call for request for proposal. It was evaluated by a multidisciplinary high-level team. It boiled down to 3 people, 3 companies with binding bids, and Patriotic, through a transparent process, has been determined to be the preferred bidder.
He called on the public to stop making issues with the deal, as the refinery will be beneficial to the country.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley maintains the restructuring of Petrotrin was the only move to save this country from having to face the dire consequences of poor decision-making.
In restructuring it, we saved ourselves a downgrade and possibly a huge devaluation of our currency. Because August 2018, the Minister of Finance had to find a check for $850 million US.
Dr. Rowley notes this was repayment for a number of loans which had been taken by the energy company.
Service that $850 million US debt. We would have ended up in an IMF program. We would have ended up with a devaluation of the currency, and we would have ended up with a quality of life in this country that we had not anticipated in any small measure.
The Prime Minister said Petrotrin could not pay the money, but after the restructuring, Heritage is able to make the repayments.
We were refining other people's oil, buying it at over 100,000 barrels per day, refining it in our refinery, guaranteed to lose between $7 and $15 a barrel. And the projections for the 5-year period in front of us, 2018 going forward, was for a guaranteed minimum loss of $5 billion.
When the refinery was being operated, they were net foreign exchange. When the refinery was being operated, they earned enough foreign exchange from sales, so that they earned more foreign exchange from the sales of refined products, from fuel, from gasoline and diesel, than it cost them to purchase the crude to put through the refinery. So they were net foreign exchange here. When the refinery was being operated, they earned enough foreign exchange from sales, so that they earned more foreign exchange from the sales of refined products, from fuel, from gasoline and diesel, than it cost them. So they were net foreign exchange here. When the refinery was being operated, they were net foreign exchange here.
We were refining other people's oil, buying it at over 100,000 barrels per day, refining it in our refinery, guaranteed to lose between $7 and $15 a barrel.
When the refinery was being operated, they were net foreign exchange here.
So when people talk about Petrotrin bringing in US dollars, that is a completely false narrative. It was not a net earner of foreign exchange. It was draining the country's reserve.
When the refinery was being operated, they were net foreign exchange here.
My name is Gary Aboud. I am the Corporate Secretary of Fishermen and Friends of the Sea, Trinidad and Tobago. We went under the Freedom of Information to the Ministry of Energy, and we got the exact data. For 4 years, Petrotrin did not rely on government subventions. So 2016, 17, 18, Petrotrin were not given 1 penny from central government. But yet the Prime Minister and members of his cabinet kept speaking about Petrotrin like that they were going to sink the national economy, saying that if they were kept going, they would lose $2 billion a year.
So when people talk about Petrotrin bringing in US dollars, that is a completely false narrative. It was not a net earner of foreign exchange. It was draining the country's reserve.
When the refinery was being operated, they were net foreign exchange here.
When you are lied to and told that Petrotrin is sinking the economy, when for 3 consecutive years not a penny was paid in subventions, how do you feel?
In restructuring it, we saved ourselves a downgrade and possibly a huge devaluation of our currency. Because August 2018, the Minister of Finance had to find a check for $850 million US.
But then, if that were true and Dr. Rowley's statements were genuine, then why is there no evidence of any subvention to keep the company afloat in 2016, 17, and 18? And when they were paid in 2019, $1.2 billion from the Ministry of Finance, that was specifically to pay severance. So, are we being run by a government with integrity? Is the public interest being served by officers duly elected who are concerned about the welfare of the least privileged, or are they ambitiously seeking to become the most privileged? These are serious questions. When you are lied to and have to pay triple for the price of oil and gas, when we had a company that could have produced and exported and kept our economy on a robust and vibrant status, how do you feel? When you see a private company that is secret, that no one knows who the owners are, making $400 and $500 million a year, selling oil and gas to ships, profits that should have been going to the national treasury, how do you feel? When the application for that company was made 6 months before Petrotrin closed, when the applicants, Dr. Rowley's close friend, would not have known or should not have known of the planned closure of Petrotrin. Beg you to answer in your heart and in your conscience. When you go to the hospital and see sick people waiting 10 hours, how do you feel? When you go to take a bus and the bus doesn't come, how do you feel? When you drive on the road and you break your axle because the road isn't repaired, when you see Wassa paying $1.5 million a day for salt water, desalinated water, and you see so much leaks, how do you feel? When you see a Prime Minister passing legislation that himself and the President should be paid their full salary for the duration of their lives as pension, but everybody else gets less, how do you feel? I feel sad when I see children fighting that don't have proper education, when I see people suffering, pensioners, when I see the Blind Welfare Association underfunded, PAVI, I don't feel good. I don't feel proud. I don't feel patriotic. And I call on you to say something.
When the refinery is being operated, they earned enough foreign exchange from sales, so that they earned more foreign exchange from the sales of refined products, from fuel, from gasoline and diesel, than it cost them to purchase the crude to put through the refinery. So they were net foreign exchange here.
So when people talk about Petrotrin bringing in US dollars, that is a completely false narrative. It was not a net earner of foreign exchange. It was draining the country's reserve.
We were refining other people's oil, buying it at over 100,000 barrels per day, refining it in our refinery, guaranteed to lose between $7 and $15 a barrel.
When the refinery is being operated, they were net foreign exchange here.
Dr. Rowley's statements were genuine, then why is there no evidence of any subvention to keep the company afloat in 2016, 17 and 18